So, you liked how I converted them last week, but will you like how I paint them this week? Let's find out. Yes, we're painting some Deathwatch for the tabletop. Here is my chaplain with jump pack, and I will be replicating this scheme on my new Leviathan Marines. I'll be focusing on the Terminator Captain and the Lufty Lefty Lieutenant in this video. The Apothecary and Librarian have some more advanced techniques that build on what I will be doing in this one, so if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe and bell icons. I gave the bases a covering of Vallejo earth texture, and then the models got a zenithal highlight of pure white over black. I am using Black Legion contrast paint by Citadel as it gives excellent coverage. You just have to be careful to make sure the paint isn't too thin on raised details, as when it dries it can pull away and leave spots of the undercoat poking through. For some reason the camera didn't record my painting the silver on the arms and other metallics, but I used a Stormhost silver. Now I'm using Corn Red to get some nice smooth coverage on the red details. I do some of the lieutenant's straps in red, along with the casings on their weapons, the cloak of the captain, and any purity seal wax that I can find. I experimented a little with red trim around the silver arms, especially on the captain to make him stand out on the tabletop. I used pallid witch flesh for the parchment and any skulls, along with the fleshy parts of the Tyranid carcasses on their bases. I used it as a base coat for the pelts hanging from the captain's back, and for the claw that the lieutenant has hanging from his belt. The captain's head gets a thin layer to act as the base for the skin, and the lieutenant's hair gets it that blonder than blonde look of a blood angel. I use Warlock Purple on the carapaces and chitin of the dead nids, and the lieutenant's improvised armour. I have a video about how I paint my Tyranids in more detail on the channel if you want to check it out. I go over the rest of the lieutenant's straps to make his armour look more improvised, and then the leather hood on the captain's skull trophy, both with snakebite leather. A 50-50 mix of Talisar blue and water goes over the silver left arm. This seems really strong at first, but don't worry, it's going to get heavily toned down, but still end up with a rich blue base. Now, the same mixed ratio for Basilicanum Grey goes over the arm, once it's dry. The mix then goes over any metal parts, and the red leather straps on the lieutenant's armour to give it a really dirty, grungy look. Carroburg Crimson goes in the recesses of the red, taking care that it doesn't run and pool. As per my last Nid vid, the Tyranid flesh on the bases gets a coat of thinned Magos Purple. I'd like to say again at this point that I have more Deathwatch vids based around the Leviathan box in the pipeline, so if you are enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe. It would really help our channel grow so we can make more content. Now I grab Skeleton Horde contrast and go over any bones such as the skull on the captain's tilt shield, the one hanging from his lance, and the orc skull on his base. Then I glaze it on top of half of the pelts on the captain's back with Basilicanum Grey in the lower. With the parchment, I grab Seraphim Sepia, and I also use it as the first shade on the captain's face. As he is a white scar, he has a Far Eastern appearance, and Far Eastern skin tends to have fewer red tones. I shall be selectively adding red tones later, I also use it on the lieutenant's hair, over that previous coat of pallid witch flesh, which glazes it to a nice rich blonde. Gilliman flesh goes over the lieutenant's skin, and then I put it over the Stormhost silver base of everything I want to be gold. This gives a really cool aged gold or brass colour to the metal. It looks great over the flamer nozzle and the icons of prestige that they wear on their armour. I really love the grungy effect of it, as if it has been tarnished in the filth of war. Now it's time to dry brush with Stormhost Silver. First it goes over the left arm, brightening the metal once more, but still leaving that almost imperceptible hint of the rich blue coming through. Then it goes on the weaponry, blades, muzzles, magazines, and lightly on some of the gold details, just to give a little pop to them. So what are you all doing with your Leviathan Marines? What do you think about the new edition? I'm liking it on the whole, but I'm a little peeved that combi weapons all have the same profile now. Also, I'm really hoping there's a new kit for Sternguard veterans. The old kit was just bristling with options. As it stands now, they can just take bolt rifles and combi weapons. Coming back in with the corn red now, I re-establish it over anywhere that may have been caught by the dry brushing. I also tidy up around the recessed shade of the crimson I did earlier. I give those areas a nice smooth coat, ready for highlighting. I use Tamiya black panel liner to assert contrast between the silver and any red or black it borders, just to bring out that distinction. They are such cool things to have in my painting arsenal. It's really easy to get carried away with them, but I'm sticking with the less is more maxim for now. I use scale 75 Inktense Violet, thin 50-50 with water to shade the scattered chitin on the dead bugs, alongside the Lieutenant's improvised armour. It doesn't matter that I get some on their feet, it is only noticeable in certain lights, and when it is, it just looks like they stepped in Nid juice. A while back I grabbed one of these handwriting pens from, I think, Hobbycraft. I whittled the nib to an even finer point, and now it is ideal for writing text on scrolls and parchment. I use Brighton Flesh Shade to add the red tones into the cheeks and brows of the captain, and do similar for the lieutenant. The first red highlight I will be using is Mephiston. This is really rich red which when thinned highlights nicely over corn red. I use it sparingly, just over the points where the light would be hitting red. I am more liberal on the captain's cape, covering any raised flat areas, feathering it out towards the recesses to get a clean, organic looking blend. For the second red highlight, I use Wazdaka Red in thinner lines than I use with Mephiston Red. What I love about this colour is how well it highlights red without screaming, "Look at me, I'm a highlight." It goes around the edges of the cape and the wax on the purity seals as well as over the gun casing. I also highlighted the red stripe on the captain's tilt shield to make it stand out, and did the same with the lieutenant's knee pad. Back to the chitin now, and I grab Demonette Hide. This is my go-to for highlighting nibs, however I usually use it as a dry brush. Here, however, there is no way a clumsy old mare like me could do that and not get it on the clean black armour, So this time I am edge highlighting with it. Not only do I go across the edges, I also paint thin lines fanning out to the edges to simulate growth lines in the bone armour for a more naturally formed feel. Now for the black armour. I am dreading this. Edge highlighting black is always tiresome, but it needs to be done. For Deathwatch, I like to use Thunderhawk blue. It gives a little colour in the armour and gives off a stealthy vibe. There is nothing to it but to just crack on. Now for spot highlights. I'm using Venetian Grey. This is a way to make the previous highlights pop, and given how many spoons they cost me, I damn well want them to earn their keep. I apply small dots of colour to the very highest points of detail, or points where 2 or more lines of highlight meet. This is not as infuriating, and the results start to pop much quicker than the previous highlights do. I am just grateful it is all over and the finish line is in sight. And I spoke too soon. We're back to Stormhost Silver, this time as an edge highlight. I'm just going to run the brush along the very edges of the metallic for the silver, and just a few spot highlights on certain prominent gold parts. Stormhost Silver has done a lot of heavy lifting for the metallics in this project, which goes to show you don't really need a load of different metallic paints for a simple, easy paint job. Now we come to basing. I do love a cool basing scheme. For my Deathwatch bases, I go over the grounded daubs of Inktense Violet and Yellow to get a strange alien world type terrain. I am careful not to let the colours mix too much on the base, so their individual vibrance is preserved. Whilst I am waiting on those to dry, I grab a White Scars transfer from the Primaris upgrade kit and prep it for use. I always use Decal Fixer for my transfers now. It really helps the transfer sit flush on a curved surface. Now that the inks on the base are dry, it's time to come in with Emperor's Children. I dry brush it over pretty much everything on the base, leaving those intense inks clear in the recesses and poking through in spots. And now I grab some Desert Dust pigment and heap it onto the bases, up onto the feet of the models, and the hem of the cape to show the minis are interacting with the environment, before using some neon grass tufts from Green Stuff World and popping them on the bases with some superglue to complete that alien landscape feel. Well, that's how I do Deathwatch. Stay tuned for some beauty shots, and I'll catch you next time on Bleeding Tree Gaming.